So people often ask me, how did you become a scientist, and what does it take to become a scientist? So for me, that process actually started relatively early, at a young age, maybe around 10 or 12 or so. I was very interested to understand how things work, and particularly kind of technology things. So the example that my mother always tells is that I was taking apart a radio. Back in the old days, we actually still had a real radio, and I wanted to know what is in that box. And of course, I could take the box apart and I could see what components are in there, but I did not understand what they were doing, and so I couldn't put it back together, right? But I think this is a key ingredient in becoming a scientist, is trying to explore how things work, right? This is in the end what science is all about. We want to understand how things work. How does the weather work? How does technology, how does your cell phone work? Or in our case, how does the quantum properties of atoms, how do they work? Right? So this was the first step for me to become a scientist. So after I got very interested in how things work, I took physics as an advanced placement course in high school already. And I had a very excellent teacher at the time, who was not just teaching the concepts from a textbook, but it was all done through experiments and through hands-on learning, and I'm very grateful for this experience. After high school, I had to do 1 year of military service at the time. That was mandatory in Germany, and during this time, I had lots of time to think about what I wanted to do next. And so it was either engineering or physics, and I wasn't really decided which is the right path for me. In the end, I decided to study physics and continue with my exploration in physics. And I have to say, the first 2 or 3 years of university weren't very good for me. I'm not the person who learns well from a textbook. I'm more the person who learns well from hands-on experience, for example, in the laboratory. And so only after 2 or 3 years did I actually have the chance to really work in the laboratory in a research group that is still related to what I do today. And the mentor at the time, Martin Wenderoth, is still a good friend of mine, and we sometimes still collaborate to this day. And that's really when I was sure that science is the right thing for me. One of the things that people don't really consider most of the time is that being a scientist is actually an incredibly diverse job, right? It's not just being in the laboratory and taking the data, and we also have to write the papers. So there's a big element of writing in there. We have to give scientific talks, so we have to be good at public speaking. Once you get a little bit more senior, you have to start leading a group, so you have all the management skills to do. So there's lots of different components in there, and I really enjoy the fact that being a scientist really has so many different aspects to it, and you have to be very good at all of those aspects to really become a world-class scientist. So being a scientist is actually one of the most fun jobs, I think, that there is. So the life of a scientist is quite interesting and maybe a little bit different from what you expect. So when we don't have a pandemic, worldwide pandemic going on, then I typically travel about 1 week per month to go most of the time to international countries, maybe attend a conference or maybe give seminars and lectures at institutes. That's how we make the network of colleagues and friends that we have in order to do joint work together with other people, right? So there's a lot of time that we spend hosting colleagues or being hosted by colleagues. This of course causes troubles. For example, if you have kids like I do, then you have to have some way that somebody is taking care of your kids. And so you have to have a balance between this kind of urge to travel and the urge, of course, to be home with your kids and be a good mother or father for your children. Now my kids fortunately are old enough that it's no problem to travel anymore, and so my wife and I are enjoying this very much.